Hello and welcome to Saints Live. I'm Steve Forbes and we're here at St Mary's as Southampton take on West Ham United. We've got loads coming up on the show. We'll be unveiling the team news very shortly. We'll also be having a look at a former game against the Hammers, and do make sure to get your comments in on the social channels and we'll try to read out as many as we can through the show. Now, there may not be any fans here tonight, but we do have one Kenzie Benali pitchside who's going to be close to the action for us.
Yes, hello Steve, you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, no fans this evening, which is of course a real shame. And someone else who won't be here tonight is Saints boss Ralph Hasenhüttl. He'll be watching remotely after a member of his family tested positive for COVID-19. He will be missed on the touchline, but it's not all doom and gloom, is it, Steve?
It's certainly not. We do have some high-profile guests joining us. We do have Dean Hammond and Adam Leach. Gentlemen, I hope you're well and had a great Christmas. Adam, obviously we didn't speak to you last time, but Dean, as Kenzie's just said, Ralph is not going to be here tonight. As a player, how's that going to affect the team, not having your boss in the dugout?
I think once the players are on the pitch, it won't make a huge difference, in all honesty. I think as a player, once you're on the pitch, you have to take responsibility yourself. You would have done all the preparation. I believe the manager would have been at the training grounds preparing the team, so the instructions would have all been given to the players and know how they're going to play. We know that the team doesn't, in terms of the performance and the way they're set out, it doesn't change too much. There's been real consistency in that. The manager's voice potentially may be missed at half-time if there's some issues or changes need to be made, but he can make that to the assistant manager and the coaching staff. So it will be different for the players. I'm hoping it's obviously a one-off thing, so it won't be a major problem. But in all honesty, it doesn't make a huge difference. You know, if the manager will still be able to make communications to the coaching staff, whether, I know in modern technology, can he get on a Zoom call at half-time potentially? I don't know how that would go down with the players, maybe. But no, I think it will be okay. But he is a presence on the touchline for the players, and it will be different, but I don't think it'll be huge. I don't think it'll be a problem.
No, he'll certainly be watching from afar, won't he? But let's dive straight into that team news then. That is coming up in just under 15 minutes' time. We know Oriol Romeu is back in contention today. We know Yannick Vestergaard won't feature, and Danny Ings and Nathan Redmond are also likely to be out for today's game. But Adam, if any, what changes are you expecting today?
Oh, well, I would think that Oriol Romeu will come back in. I'd be surprised if he didn't. He's such a key player for Saints. And yeah, Diallo showed a little bit of what he's about against Fulham, but it's going to take time for him to work his way in. And I don't think, for me, he put in such a stellar performance that you feel like Romeu, who's been so fantastic, frankly, this season, deserves to be kept out. It's probably not a terrible thing for Oriol in a busy period of games to have kind of had a break as well and missed one, and I'm sure he'll be itching to get back. So I think that's for me an obvious change, and I'd be surprised if Ralph doesn't make that change and pair Oriol with Prowse again. In terms of further forward, I would think that's the other area that Ralph will be looking at. Obviously, we don't know for sure about the freshness of the players, and that's something that only Ralph will know, seeing them in training all the time. But on the assumption that Ings and Redmond don't make it today, I think there's a fairly reasonable argument for putting Theo Walcott up front with Che Adams. I understand why Ralph was a little bit hesitant because there were multiple changes happening in the team, and he kind of wanted to disrupt as few areas as possible, I suppose. But I think that they didn't look as threatening. And obviously, when Danny's been out before, Che and Theo have done well together. And when you've got Gineppo on the bench, who's able to come in and offer something in a deeper role, for me, I think that would be the other obvious change would probably be to leave out Shane Long and put Theo up and bring in Musa. So assuming freshness, those are probably is okay. I think those are the changes that I would probably expect Ralph to make today.
Dean, what about you? How are you expecting the Saints to line up to take on West Ham tonight?
Yeah, I actually agree with Adam. Everything he just said. I think Oriol will come back into the team because of the performances he's put in this season. He's been a superb player for the team, real influence on the team. And obviously, I think they missed that experience a little bit in the centre of midfield as well. But I agree with Adam. Diallo did okay. You know, no issues with his performance, but he didn't set the world alight to dislodge kind of Oriol for his position. And then I think Joe mentioned it on the show last week after the game, that the fact that, and Adams just mentioned it, I think Theo going up top again with Shay Adams would work and has worked better. I think they can combine better. They've got different attributes and different qualities. I think Shay and Shane are too similar in their approach and their performances. Shane did okay in the game against Fulham, and I think Gineppo will come in on the wing just to bring that little bit of magic, that little bit of spark. You know, he's played a few more games this season. His condition is improving all the time. His understanding of the role is improving all the time. So I think that will be the changes. And if they are made, it's a really, really strong Southampton team.
Well, Dean, West Ham have actually had 24 hours less to prepare for this game than Southampton. Is that likely to have an impact on how they're going to perform tonight?
Potentially it can. It all depends on how much David Moore's rotate the squad. West Ham have got a decent squad of players. They've got a bit more depth in quality as well. But it all depends on how much David Moore trusts the squads and the player within the squad. If he's going to keep a similar team, it will have a big impact. You know, having that 24 hours less, you know, the intensity of the Premier League is so high and the pace that it's played at, it's hard to recover that quickly. And also, you're not able to get the detail of your preparation into the game, how they would prepare for Southampton. So it will have an effect. Their condition-wise, they'll be good. You know, they're top athletes now. They're professionals. The sports science at every club is excellent. So the stats will be analysed from the previous performance. But it will have an effect, and it hopefully will be a positive for Southampton.
Well, Adam, you did touch on it earlier when we spoke about the team news. Of course, we did see Shane Long playing alongside Shay Adams on Boxing Day. You said you are anticipating that Theo Walcott will come and play alongside Shay today. But do you think we'll see more experimentation, perhaps with Nlundulu or even Teller being given a chance tonight?
I mean, it's definitely possible, but I would think probably at this stage that those lads are probably options from the bench. I think they're doing very well to kind of stay in and around the first team and to get those chances. Whether they're quite ready for a start, not, you know, another start in Teller's case, I'm not entirely convinced at the moment. Not when there are other options. I think if you've got a dearth of senior players out, then fine. If you've got one player who is really, really banging on the door, then fine. But I don't think we're quite at that stage. I think they're both growing, they're learning, they're maturing, being in and around the first team. And I think that's probably the sensible path to keep them on, unless you have to. It's not impossible, because Ralph is really keen to promote youth and has spoken, you know, very recently about wanting to use the young players rather than you know, go into the transfer market in January if there's nothing available, and that's a very positive thing. And so they probably will get chances along the line. But is today the day, or do you look at maybe the FA Cup game coming up soon? You know, lower league opposition. That's a great chance probably to blood a few of these younger players and give them another game. I think, to me, that makes more sense when you've got good senior players who are in good form, they're confident. I don't really see the argument for changing it up too much at that point. So to keep them on the bench, keep them in and around that first team environment, keep them getting that experience, bring them on for some impact, you know, some fresh legs, some youth enthusiasm if you need them, or if it's appropriate in the game. But probably stick for me with the senior players in the starting lineup at this point in time.
All right, now last time out, Southampton drew 0-0 with Fulham on Boxing Day, a game that may not live too long in the memory for some. So in case you've forgotten what happened already, here's the highlights.
There are 4 changes to the Southampton side. This is a real test of their squad strength this afternoon. Plus Reed on the floor. Here comes Ward-Prowse, whips it off the crossbar, comes back out, and then Shay Adams should have scored. And he may just have completely missed the ball as he was running in for the rebound off the crossbar. In a row against promoted sides. Good header forward towards the edge of the box. Adams trying to control it. Shane Long will hit it, and Areola has to turn that over. First real save they forced out of the Fulham goalkeeper. Haven't really had a sustained period, Dave, in the game, have they? As it gets put in early down the left from Bertrand. Onside and a volley. Shane Long has scored. If the flag goes up, it's going to deny him a first goal since February, and it has.
You know, he's made that
good.
position his own, hasn't he?
Absolutely. Good ball from Armstrong down the right. Flicked on by Long. Now Shea Adams on the right-hand side. Puts a low ball in and Southampton have taken the lead. And Theo Walcott's timed his run to perfection, it looks like, from the left-hand side. And this one could be priceless if VAR doesn't rule it out for offside against Shea Adams. It's going to be offside, Dave. I think Shea Adams is going to be called for his foot.
What a shame, because that is good play, that. You know, if you can come away with
still a threat though. Anguissa going to the byline, edge of the 6-yard box, pulls it back. The shot will come out. Brilliant block.
Great
by
block.
Jack Stevens.
What a good block that is.
To deny Aina a shot from the penalty area.
Block.
And that's the last action of the game at Craven Cottage. Crucial touch, a clean sheet for Jack Stevens.
Well, Dean, we saw Jack Stevens coming into the starting 11 there to replace the injured Yannick Vestergaard. How do you think he fared against Fulham?
Yeah, I think Jack did really well, to be honest. I mean, as a centre-half coming in, it's like a striker coming into a team. You know, when you're a striker, you want to score a goal. Jack's come into the team and kept a clean sheet. So that's the main thing. You know, you tick that box. He looked a little bit rusty to start with, a little bit complacent with a first couple of passes. But after that, he looked nice and calm in possession, nice and relaxed. He read the game very, very well. He did everything that we expect of Jack Stevens when he comes in. You know, he's a consistent performer when he plays. We mentioned it in the show last week. He was a little bit unfortunate to come out of the team, and the partnership the two centre-halves have had has been excellent. And that block at the end of the game was fantastic. You know, really, really brave, really committed to blocking that ball where Fulham could have potentially won the game very, very late on. So, yeah, his performance was good. You know, he's staked a claim again to keep the shirt. And if he does that and he keeps playing well, the manager's shown in the past that if you play well for him, you earn his trust and you earn his faith, you'll stay within the team. So Jack put in a solid performance and exactly what you need when you're coming back into the team. He did his job. He got a clean sheet for the team and he looked decent on the ball. So, yeah, well done, Jack.
Adam, Yannick Vestergaard is still set to be out for another 3 to 4 weeks. As Dean said, is this a great time for Jack Stevens to stake his place in that starting 11?
Definitely, Stephen. It's an opportunity from his point of view he's got to take because I think otherwise he could find himself slipping down the pecking order a little bit if he's not careful. Obviously, Bednarek and Vestergaard have established themselves as a terrific pairing. Vestergaard, as we know, is a big miss. He's been absolutely great for Saints in recent months. Him and Bednarek look really solid and the first choice pairing. Obviously, Saints spent some money to bring in Salisu as well. A young player. Ralph is obviously going cautious with him. He's spoken about that very recently as well. He's been, keen to say that this guy is the future. I really believe that. And he looks great in training, but takes time for a young player to settle, first big move abroad, etc. So kind of bedding him in. So that puts Jack now, he's kind of number 3 centre-half. So he's gone from being the regular first choice almost to being number 3 and thinking that this other guy's somebody come in the door who the manager's describing as the future and worrying that he could be 4th choice, which is not a comfortable position for him to be in at all. So it's a big chance for him because he really needs to prove that he is very, very valuable for the team. Whether Vestergaard comes back in or not, he needs to show Ralph that he is a man that he can really rely on and be that, at least at worst, the first change centre-half. Because otherwise, I think from his point of view, he might see himself slipping down the pecking order a bit further. And that's something that he's clearly not going to want.
Well, let's take a look and see what the fans are saying at home, shall we, Steve? Because I believe it's not too long until we're able to bring you the team news. Lots of you getting very excited for tonight's match and watching from all over the globe as well, which is fantastic to hear. Robbie's tuning in from Normandy. Good evening to you. We have a comment here from Keith. He says, watching and working in California. Wow, that's absolutely glorious. I can imagine it's significantly warmer than it is here on the south coast, Keith. It is very, very cold. Lynn, good evening. She says, hello from West Coast, Scotland. I'll be listening tonight. I'm Theo's mum. Oh, wow. Well, thanks for watching, Lynn. That's fantastic. Barry Williams is watching on YouTube. He's joining us from Canada. He says, let's go Saints. We have a comment here from Ethan. He's got in touch to say we need a big performance tonight. Phil has said, looking forward to the Saints FC website commentary, listening here in Vietnam. Thank you very much for your company. Scott is joining us from Poole Dorset. Dorset. It's always great to hear where you're watching from around the globe, but I imagine lots of you are tuning in to hear the all-important team news, and we have it right here for you now. The headline team news is that Danny Ings starts for the Saints tonight. Ibrahima Diallo drops out to make way for Oriol Romeo's return to the side, and Moussa Djenepo replaces Stuart Armstrong. So let's just run through the Southampton team in full then, shall we? In goal, Alex McCarthy. The back four of Carl Walker-Peters, Jack Stevens, Jan Bednarek and Ryan Bertrand remains unchanged. As I've just mentioned, Oriol Romeo comes back into the starting 11 after his one-match suspension. He'll be playing alongside our captain, James Ward-Prowse, of course. Out wide is Moussa Djenepo and Theo Walcott, and leading the line is Shay Adams and Danny Ings. I imagine that will be music to many Saints fans' ears. Great to have him back this evening. And the Southampton bench this evening then: Fraser Forster, Mohamed Salisu, Jan Valery, Jake Vokins, Ibrahima Diallo, Will Smallbone, Stuart Armstrong, Michael Obafemi and Shane Long. So Dean, let's come to you first then. We have to talk about Danny's return. How pleased are you to see him back tonight?
Yeah, fantastic. I didn't expect it, I must admit. It's a bit of a surprise that he returns earlier than expected, but no, he's the talisman of the team. He's the main player. He not only his performances and his goals, he makes players around him better. And he kind of, if I was playing in the same team, it'd excite me when he played. I'd feel as though I'd be more comfortable. I'd be more confident when he's in my team. And he's that goal scorer. He's that threat that when he gets an opportunity, you feel really, really confident that he's going to take it. And if he doesn't take the first one, he'll take the second opportunity. So brilliant to see him back. Hopefully he's fit and he's fully fit and he's raring to go. And I'm sure he is, because he loves his football. He looks happy at the football club and he'd be desperate to get on the score sheet again. So brilliant to see him back.
Yeah, Adam, no surprises to see Oriol come back into the team. As Dean's just said, it's a very welcome surprise to welcome Danny back, but also the reintroduction of Moussa Djenepo. He'll be pleased to have another chance tonight.
Yeah, and I think he's another one that's still got a lot to prove. I mean, we've talked about it a few times. He's getting chances now on a more regular basis at the moment, and he really, for me, he needs to kind of deliver a little bit more than he's delivered so far. Moussa, I think it's. We're seeing it in flashes, and I think it just needs to be a little bit more consistent. We're not expecting, him to score 4 goals a game or, 5 assists, every time he goes out on the pitch, but just a little bit more consistency, particularly with his final product, that final end product, the last pass, the shot, the cross, the decision making of when to attempt to do those things. He is a young player. He is learning. He's got a lot of talent, and he deserves to be given a bit of kind of rope to be able to express himself and to find himself and find his feet at this level. But I think it's kind of coming to that time now where you really want to see him progressing just a little bit more. So I think this is another big opportunity for him. I really like the team. It's great Danny's back, and it's a really attacking team with Danny, Shay, Theo and Moussa out there. I think Ralph has rightly recognised that West Ham are very vulnerable. Particularly at the back. They're not great. They don't like people running at them, don't like pace particularly. And he's packed the team with players who are going to offer those kind of threats to West Ham. And I think that this is a game, definitely for me, where attack is the best form of defence for Saints. So I think he's picked a really positive team. And yeah, I think gives him a great chance to get 3 points tonight.
All right. Yeah, well, we'll talk a bit more about both teams again shortly. But first, let's rewind the clock back to 2011, where the Saints beat West Ham 1-0 at St Mary's to gain promotion to from the Championship.
Good evening and welcome to St Mary's in the Championship. It is first place Southampton against West Ham in second. It's an absolute sellout. There's not a spare seat to be had anywhere. Every single red seat taken as we look around here. Right side of the penalty area. Left-footed ball from Conley towards the back post. Lambert's lurking in towards Chaplow, and Chaplow scoops it over the bar. Looked like he was trying to hold off the attentions of the defender. He did well to get something on it. It was an intelligent header back across the goal from Lambert, and it was just at an awkward height for Chaplow. 40 seconds left of the half here. Fox swings it in, fizzes it in, the header goalwards, and it's into the back of the net, and Højbjerg claims the credit. The big Dutchman has powered the header home. Almunia threw out a hand, and Jos Højbjerg has his second goal in Southampton colours. Fox goes long down the centre, Again, a rather West Ham-esque ball with a loose header away at the back, and now a chance for Schneidlin on the edge of the area, and Gooley steaming through. Good save from Almunia. Well, that was the goal that surely would have put the game to bed with 15 minutes to play. It was a sweeping move from Saints. Here comes the West Ham free kick from Lansbury towards the back post and turned onto the bar by Davis. Smartly moving away to his right side. It was Noble in the end who had the effort on goal as Noble goes past Cork on this near side. Noble's ball in, heading towards the back post, off the upright, almost a disastrous own goal. Well, we were just discussing who it was who got the header on it. It was definitely a red and white Southampton shirt who nodded the ball towards his back post. Davis, flying through the air, was beaten. Here it's still 1-0 to Saints, and it's De Ridder edge of the area, plays a 1-2 with Harding. De Ridder's in, and De Ridder has won it! Or has he won it? There's a yellow card has been administered to a West Ham player here. The whistle, can you believe, had already gone. The whistle had already gone for a free kick. Referee Deadman has a long look at his watch. St Mary's fans sing. It is 17 in a row for Southampton.
Dean, that match was first versus second at the time. How big a win was that in the promotion race?
Yeah, it was a huge win. It really was. I think it was pretty early on in the season, if I can remember. I remember the game. Obviously, it was a full house at St Mary's. It was firsty second. I remember the noise. I remember the anticipation and the excitement from the crowd and from us as players actually kind of justifying and really realising whether we were promotion contenders. I don't think it was the best game in the world. West Ham were a big physical team. But yeah, it was a good game, a good performance, a 1-0 win. And actually it was probably one of the only games, for some reason, I was nervous before. I never used to get nervous before a game, but I felt a little bit nervous just because I knew we were a good team in the Championship. I knew we could have a really good season. But if we could beat West Ham, who'd been relegated, who kept hold of most of their players, who had Sam Allardyce as manager, who were expected to bounce straight back to go up, it was a big, big game. And to win like we did in 1-0 didn't really give West Ham many, many chances in the game. Yeah, just real justification that, we could have a successful season, that we were improving players, that we were good players, and we had a chance. And I remember the final whistle going and just hearing, St Mary's erupt. It give the squad and the players, and personally myself, a lot of confidence to believe for that season.
My apologies there if I interrupted you, Dean. It's very exciting being back pitch side and seeing lots of familiar faces again. But Adam, let's come to you. The only goal of the game was scored by Jos Højveld. What do you remember from his time at Southampton?
Well, he was a big part of that team that won promotion from the Championship to the Premier League. It was he's a big strapping lad, big old unit. Jos was wiry but strong, good in the air in both boxes. Kind of just what you needed, I think. He was one of those guys that, to be honest, he was a player for that moment, really, because when you look at his Saints career, he helped Saints get up into the Premier League. He was very important. That partnership with Jose Font was excellent. They did a great job. And then in the Premier League, he sort of played in that sort of transition phase as Saints were getting used to being back in the Premier League, but then was transitioned out basically for, on reflection, high quality players. So that Maya Yoshida came in and became kind of took Jos's place as a regular, and then the following season after that, it was Dejan Lovren, and him and Jose obviously were an excellent pairing together, and things went on from there. So Jos found himself sidelined and having to go elsewhere and seek other opportunities. But credit to him, he came in, he played a massive role initially on loan, and then moving permanently in that team. And I always think it's a lovely place for players who played in those teams to be, because he might have only played a limited number of games for Saints, but he's a player that will be remembered for a long time to come, because he was part of a very special team who achieved something extraordinary. And I think that's a nice thing for him, that he'll always be fondly remembered despite only playing 50 odd games. So yeah, he was a good man for that moment in time.
Dean, Jos became a bit famous for only really scoring on a Tuesdays. In fact, 6 of his 9 Southampton goals came on a Tuesday. How important was it to have a centre-back who could actually contribute to the goals?
I didn't know about that stat, to be honest. I couldn't remember. It's interesting you say that. But no, it was great for Josh actually to have that threat from set piece. A little bit like Vestergaard now. You know, Josh was a big guy. Like Adam said, he wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the strongest, but his timing of his headers was really, really good. His movement was good, and he enjoyed scoring goals. So he was definitely a threat from set pieces. And we worked really, really hard on set pieces actually in training. On a Friday, we used to spend a lot of time, the coaching staff would spend a lot of time on finding the opposition's weakness and working on our strengths. And Josh was definitely one of those strengths, whether we could get a block in for him or whether he could get a free run at the ball. Because if he did, he's a big lad. You know, his timing, like I said, was good, and he was actually really, really good at heading. And Josh was a good guy, funny guy, really funny, loud on the pitch, loud off the pitch. Could be a little bit annoying sometimes because he was so loud. But no, he was a funny guy, brilliant member of the squad, and scored some really, really important goals, and like the goal against West Ham. So yeah, it was a joy to play with him, and it was good to know him as well.
Adam, Steve de Ridder was denied the second goal by the referee's whistle. What kind of player was he?
Well, I mean, I guess probably a bit inconsistent would be the best way to describe Steve. I mean, he came in. It was a difficult job for him, I think, because Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain had left, and he was brought in as kind of a replacement. But obviously, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain went for an awful lot of money, and Steve de Ridder didn't cost as much money. So to kind of put that expectation on him was difficult. We saw he was definitely a player. We saw in flashes that he had some talent, he had some ability, but he really struggled to translate that beyond being an impact player from the bench. And you know, you think back and you could see his talent. He scored that great goal, I remember, against Reading, which was probably the highlight of his time at Saints. I think rescued a draw, an important game for Saints at that point in time. But he never really was able to establish himself in any kind of starting role. He's one of those guys, when he got a chance to start games, often he'd end up coming off after an hour because he kind of couldn't really bring it into a starting position. But he was a good player to have on the bench, to chuck on and cause some problems with 20 minutes to go if you needed something a little bit different. But unfortunately, he struggled to really make a greater impact than that. So that kind of was his time at Saints, really, was mainly that impact player from the bench.
Dean, we spoke on Boxing Day about Ibrahima Diallo, and he's struggling to get into the Saints side just due to how well the team's playing. Was it the same with de Ridder? He only started 5 championship games and was being kept out of the team by the likes of Lallana and Goulet.
Yeah, I think the issue with Steve he had very, very good players in front of him that were in really, really good form in a team that was winning most weeks, so it was difficult for him. There was some expectation on Steve when he came into the club, like Adam mentioned. He was replacing Alex. And I remember Steve coming into training, and the first couple of training sessions, he used to really wrap the passes in for no need. And it was just like, you think, okay, this is going to be a high quality player. And in flashes, he was really, really exciting and creative. But he just couldn't get into the team. He couldn't get a consistent starting place. He didn't really enjoy coming off the bench, even though I agree with Adam again. He was better as an impact player. You know, with 20 minutes to go, you'd put him on the pitch, encourage him to get the ball and run at the players. And probably, if I'm honest, he didn't work hard enough off the ball. And that's one thing that Nigel demanded of the players. If we didn't have the ball, you'd work to win it back. And Steve was a little bit of a luxury player that didn't quite produce what he needed to produce when he had the ball. But actually a really, really good player, a talented player. It just didn't quite work out for him at Southampton. And one of those players that actually got frustrated really easily. If he wasn't in the team, that we all like a moan in training, but Steve would like a moan as well. And I don't think he quite justified to have such a moan when he'd not proven himself to the players in the squad just yet. But no, a good guy, a good player, but just didn't quite work out for him at Southampton.
Dean, I'm ever so sorry, but we've got to mention it. You hitting your own post in that match, a bit of a heart-in-mouth moment. I think you owe this post here a bit of a thank you.
Well, I meant to do it, Kenzie, to be honest. A bit of excitement because just to keep the fans on their toes. But it was another one of those wonderful headers, just at the wrong end this time. But yeah, got a little bit lucky. I think it was a cross into the box. I think by Mark Noble, and I was just overstretching for it, thinking I was trying to be overcautious, and I got a terrible. I must admit, as soon as it hit my head, I thought, "Oh no, that's definitely gone in." I think Calvin gave me a few nice words afterwards, which was always good. But luckily for me, hit the post, didn't go in. We went on to win the game. So yeah, it was. I was a little bit nervous as that came off my head, I must admit.
Yeah, I'm sure that pep talk from Calvin Davis is not appropriate for Saints Live, so we won't make you tell us about that. But what we are going to do is have a little look at what the fans are saying at home. As I said earlier, feeling really positive about tonight's game against West Ham. Isaac said very happy with Ings starting. Yes, of course, we were expecting lots of positive comments coming in about Danny starting in tonight's team. Dion said top team. Jordan, hello to you. He's on Facebook. He says he's really happy with the team tonight. He's glad to see Romeo back, and he's hoping for all 3 points. We also have another comment here from Obi on YouTube, tuning in from Vienna, Austria. I hope the boys do a good job today.
Right, well, let's go back to talking about tonight's game and our opponents, West Ham. Adam, since Ralph has managed Southampton, he's played West Ham 4 times and lost all 4 games. Why do you think we've struggled so much against the Hammers in recent years?
It's such a great question. I've been racking my brains today trying to figure it out, because it's not just Ralph. It's been a real struggle against West Ham since promotion to the Premier League again. When West Ham have been there as well, I can't really put my finger on it, because there's no rhyme nor reason when you look back at the games. They're all kind of individual occasions, really, and on a lot of them, the strange thing is, Saints just haven't really turned up. And I can't really explain why that is, because I don't think there is a rational reason. I don't think that they've often been just massively outclassed by West Ham. They've just not played very well against them. I thought back, actually, casting my mind back a little bit to when Mark Hughes took over, because his first game in charge, I think, was West Ham at the Olympic Stadium, at the London Stadium. I remember, because he obviously took over from Pellegrino, and his first press conference, he was very bullish, Mark Hughes, but he was almost a little dismissive, in that I think he felt that the previous manager and coaching staff were a bit of a joke, to be honest, and they hadn't done a great job. And he kind of gave this air of, there's some really good players here, so they just need to be coached properly and put in a proper formation. They'll be fine. And they went out West Ham and they got smashed, and they were awful. And I remember in the press conference after that game, he was very contrite and kind of was basically saying, "Oh, this is a bigger job than I thought it was." Okay, right. But that's kind of typical of what happened. It seems to happen against West Ham. They just don't, for some reason, they just don't seem to turn up. I mean, I will say, in fairness to West Ham, they've got and have had consistently some very, very good players, particularly attacking players. And that maybe it's a little bit misleading, because overall they haven't delivered what they should have delivered for the quality they've had in their squad. They have underachieved fairly consistently, given the quality in their squad. And so therefore, in those isolated games, that quality can shine and can cost you wins. But why it happens so often against West Ham, I really cannot quite put my finger on it. But I think anybody who's followed Saints has probably had about enough of it. And so tonight would be a good time to end it.
Well, the West Ham keepers and the Southampton keepers, of course, are well underway with their warm-up. So apologies if you see me ducking and diving to avoid any balls flying our way. We are directly behind the goal. But talking in more depth about West Ham then, they have just won 1 in their last 5 games, but they are doing well in the table, Dean. What have you made of their season so far?
Yeah, it's been an improvement under David Moyes. I think they're 10th in the league, which I think is probably where they deserve to be in a club. For West Ham, we think they should be higher, but I think it's about right for them. They've got some decent players in Declan Rice. Soucek in midfield is very, very good. Lanzini, I like, is an exciting player. Bowen on the wing is a good player. So they've improved the squad, and they're more disciplined in terms of individually and as a team. There's no real high-profile players, no real egos within the squad anymore, which has made them better. And David Moyes is an experienced manager within the Premier League, so they can play off 2 different shapes, and they've learned how to win games. They're not the most exciting team in the world, if I'm honest, and they can be a little bit negative at times, but they've learned how to win games. And I think they brought David Moyes in to maybe do a similar job that he did at Everton. He's going to try and build a club again. There's a vision at the club that they're going to give him a bit of time to hopefully build that up. So they're a decent force, but they can be beaten and they can be got at. I think Adam mentioned it earlier. In wide areas, if you've got pacey players, which we have tonight, they can be got at. The defence can be got at. But no, they're an improving Premier League team.
Ham keepers warming up there. Hopefully they're not doing too well for the game. Adam, on Boxing Day, that 0-0 draw with Fulham was actually the first 0-0 Saints have had in nearly 2 years. Are you expecting goals in this one tonight?
I think so. I think Kenzie needs to do a bit of a psychological job on them from behind the goal there. Kind of a few comments flying in there, just undermine their confidence a little bit before the game. But yeah, I think that there should be goals in this one. I kind of feel, dare I say it, relatively confident, actually, given we've just talked about how dreadful Saints' record is against West Ham, that they will be able to score some goals tonight, because I really don't rate West Ham's defence that highly, and I think the Saints' attack is exceptional, and they've kind of got the A team out tonight, if you like, in terms of attacking options. So yeah, there should be goals. I think at the other end, there's a question mark there. Can Saints keep West Ham out? As Dean said, they have got some attacking talent there. I like Lanzini as well. I think he's a decent player on top of the players that Dean highlighted. They're definitely an improving team under David Moyes. But David Moyes has done kind of the job that I suppose he was employed to do. It's not that sexy or exciting what he's doing with them, but he's turning them from what we talked about before, which was a team with a lot of talent, but sort of a bit unfocused, and kind of they could go out one week and they'll run riot and stuff somebody, and then the next week they'll lose a game that you just would never expect them to lose, and that's kind of blighted them when they've had all this talent in the ranks. He's actually trying to make them a more consistent Premier League team, to make them harder to beat, and then use some of that attacking talent. It's made them a bit more dull to watch from a neutral point of view, but it's probably the right way to go. I'm sure at some stage, unfortunately for him, unless they really have a breakthrough, that eventually they'll probably want to go back to being more exciting again. But actually, I think at this point in time, it's quite a sensible job that he's actually doing with West Ham. But that said, I do think, in answer to the question, there'll be goals tonight. And I'm pretty confident, or hopeful at least, that Saints will be able to come out on top.
Dean, in the last 5 games, Saints have conceded just 3 goals, whereas West Ham have conceded 10. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think we'll be seeing goals this evening, or will it be a bit of a cagey affair like Boxing Day?
No, I don't think it'll be a cagey affair. I'm hoping there'll be goals for Southampton. I watched the game West Ham against Brighton, and West Ham were poor. They were laboured. They were negative. They looked reasonably slow. Any pace in behind, Danny Welbeck for Brighton was running in behind, was stretching the defence and getting in quite often. In wide areas, they were causing problems. And we've mentioned it, the attacking players for Southampton are better, much better than the Brighton players. Danny Ings coming back, Shay Adams, Gineppo, Theo Walcott. They should be really relishing this tonight, looking at the West Ham defence, thinking, okay, give me the opportunity, give me the ball, I'll create things, they can combine. There's a good understanding between them four, and I think they like playing together. So I think we'll see goals. I think it was a cagey affair on Boxing Day. I mentioned it before, the pitch at Craven Cottage is quite tight. It's difficult to get any flow going. And one thing that West Ham will allow you to do is to have possession of the ball. And Southampton are good with the ball. Once they get into that flow and that rhythm, they do create opportunities. They do look forward. So no, I think there'll be goals tonight, and I think they'll come from Southampton. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Well, we've got just over half an hour until kick-off. Adam, what kind of a game do you expect tonight, and what's your score prediction?
Well, I hope and expect it'll be a bit livelier than Boxing Day, and hopefully there'll be some goals as well. I think West Ham are there to be got at today, and I think for Saints this kind of feels like quite an important game for them in the context of their season. They're obviously having a great season. They've just slowed a little the last few weeks. Not a lot, but a little bit. And I think that they're probably conscious, Ralph's probably conscious, especially with Liverpool around the corner, and then Leicester that they probably could do with getting 3 points on the board here to keep that momentum, that really great feeling going. They haven't been losing games really, Saints, left, right and centre, but also the kind of winning has slowed down a little bit. And I think this is a really good opportunity for them tonight. Like Dean, I saw West Ham against Brighton, really very unimpressive, especially the first half. They were really sluggish. I don't quite know what was up with them, which gives you a sense that probably they're not 100% right there. Not everything's right. So I think there's a good chance here for Saints tonight, and a big game for them in the context of the season. I'm also optimistic because of the team that Ralph's picked, which I think is a great team. So I'm going to be optimistic and go for a 3-1 Saints win.
Dean, are you going to be equally optimistic?
I am actually, yeah. I think it's a good opportunity for Southampton to just finish 2020 really, really well, and finish the festive period well. There's been a brilliant start to the season, just to finish the year on a high with a really, really good performance, a really slick performance, and a good result. There's going to be patches in the game where West Ham will, they're quite strong from set pieces, so Southampton will have to concentrate and defend them well. But Southampton will get opportunities, and with Danny Ings in the team and the partnership with Shay Adams, I always feel confident. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 win. Not quite as many goals as Adams mentioned, but I'll go for a good performance, a good solid performance, and 2-0 to Southampton.
Well, Dean, Adam, thank you so much for your insight as always. Very relieved that I've managed to go through the show unscathed. No balls flying over the goal, which is a relief. But of course, we will be back after the game for the final whistle. So do make sure you join us then. The scene is set here at St Mary's. Kickoff, of course, gets underway at 6 o'clock. You can catch live commentary of the game over at southamptonfc.com. But we'll see you after the match.